Hello everybody. Thank you for joining us to this session of the summer school at the AATV channel for the Architectural Association. We invite you to watch the 3 sessions we have prepared on 3 concepts that are central in our work.
These concepts are multiplicity, imperfection, and the unexpected little twist. And we will enter them through various examples from arts, music, design, cinema, photography, and architecture. We hope you will enjoy them. Imperfection.
Together with multiplicity and the unexpected little twist, imperfection is one of the concepts that are central in our work. And in this occasion, we are going to explain you or to do a journey through different aspects of imperfection in arts, cinema, music, photography, architecture, to see how we understand this concept in the field of architecture and others. The best way to start is with this essay by Robert Louis Stevenson from 1874, where in an essay talking about the movement of small kids, he writes a sentence that actually briefs and explains all what we want to say in this talk, which is the following. He says, I quote, "The imperfection is so pretty and pathetic, and it gives so great a promise of something different in the future that it attracts us more than many forms of beauty." So imperfection somehow is showing how things could be, is explaining or putting in front of you the possibilities that are open of that thing that is supposedly imperfect, which means that it's the one who sees that imperfection or the one who uses it who will make it perfect in their own minds.
Somehow in the idea of imperfection, there is something also of inclusiveness. The perfection that very many architectural discourses are centered to. As architects, we are supposed to do perfect pieces of art or of spaces, and this absolute perfection, we find that somehow it is very expulsive. And what we find very interesting in the imperfection, in the roughness of things, is that somehow they are much more inclusive. You feel much more comfortable in an environment that is not absolutely sleek. Enzo Mari, an Italian designer, has this wonderful folder of autoprogettazione, which are designs of furniture meant to be copied by anyone, and they are based on a design that can be constructed in a very easy way. All the wood cuts are made in 90 degrees angles, and later then some of these pieces have turned into design classics. But the idea here is that there's something very simple made, something that actually can be also modified by the maker. It's this maker culture before the real idea was even invented. And the idea is that Enzo Mari makes this folder of designs, and then he even kind of asks people to send back the finished objects. But the idea is this very simple technique to conceive this very complex furniture in the end. And this is maybe the best known piece because then it has been reproduced, but the idea is not that there would be a furniture firm reproducing this, but that actually the users would be able to reproduce these objects. But somehow the idea that simple nails, very simple cuts, and just a very intelligent way of laying and setting these things together is enough. So that's something that we find that also in architecture, somehow this idea of including the user in the making of the space could happen.
Yeah, this is something that happened in the different series of Star Wars movies. It happened one thing, that the first three movies, the ones made in the end of the 70s and in the 80s, they were made without any digital effects. Everything was made with small models, with optical illusions, etc. In the second set of movies, the ones made in the beginning of the 2000s, everything was digital. And the thing is that what this image is showing, despite or in addition to that George Lucas has all the models and all the masks and all the landscapes and starships, etc., from the first three, he doesn't have anything from the second. But the thing is that the first three, when you watch the movies, you can feel actually that they are small models. You can see how it has been made. You can see this imperfection of things, which actually, and this may be somehow paradoxical, but it looks more real because actually it is real. In the second set of the movies, the ones in the 2000s, everything is digital, so nothing is real. Everything is just zeros and ones in a way, no, in the computer. And that's what actually made that, among many other things, made that these three second sets of movies, they were not that successful as the others. And actually, when they did the third set of movies, already in the 2010, 2020, they went back to, of course, they did many things in a digital format, but they went back to do models, to do masks, to do Muppets, let's say, so as to give some real touch or some reality, some imperfect reality to the movies. Actually, this is something that the ones that we have a certain age, we remember from the Sesame Street or the Muppet Show. When we were kids, we used to watch Ernie and Bert, okay, with their discussions and their movements and then their funny things. But and that was something that was absolutely amazing because they were two Muppets that they were talking, they were moving, they were funny. It was fantastic. But when one grows a little bit older, the interesting thing is not the characters, it's not the Muppet Show, but actually what you need to have those Muppets. And what you need is these three guys that they are doing complex movements, choreographies. One has to be sneezing, the other one's underarm. And this is the magical thing. And when you know actually that Ernie and Bert are these three guys, it's even better. It's even more enjoyable because you know of how much things behind, how much imperfection there is to get those perfect movements and perfect show.
So it has a lot to do with understanding how things work. This piece of art installation, Der Lauf der Dinge, of Fischli and Weiss, is a brilliant explanation or demonstration of this aspect. I will show you a short part of this. It's a chain reaction where in an industrial warehouse things happen. Things somehow very imperfect, very rough, but in the end, all the combination of this reaction is of pure beauty and perfection also. But what I think that makes it so attractive is that we really see how the candle lights the explosive material, or how then the chain reaction continues. And the fragility of this reaction is what gives it another type of beauty. It gives a tension from the part of the observer, and it's almost impossible to stop watching it.
This is something that we can also find in many other fields. And for example, we will just show some examples in music. One band that we have always adored because of their somehow raw sound is the Violent Femmes. In the first album, and the most known, all the songs are somehow straight from the instruments. They are not post-produced. Everything is as if it was a live concert. I mean, the songs by the Violent Femmes, they are straight away. They are not extremely worked, and that's what makes it so beautiful. Another musician that it's fantastic at the same time, it's Jonathan Richman, either alone or with the Modern Lovers, and which we invite you to discover if you don't know, which also works with this very rough and straightaway sound and straightaway voice, and very imperfect voice, very imperfect way of singing. They are Violent Femmes, Jonathan Richman, and others. They are not great talented voices in a musical point of view, but the result is absolutely fantastic. And of course, if we go to Imperfection, the most clear example would be Daniel Johnston, not only because of the songs, but also because of the way they were recorded. Daniel Johnston recorded his songs in a tape recorder, and the sound was the sound of the music played at his place, at his home. But the result is so straightforward, and it's so talented on the other hand, that it's also fantastic. You can even hear the sound of pressing the tape recorder, of stopping the song.
Listen up and I'll tell a story about an artist growing old. Some would try for fame and glory, others aren't so bold.
Often you hear versions of these songs that are prettily produced and made this kind of launch music, and somehow it's terrible when there is this excess of perfectness or smoothness in these songs. Somehow the roughness brings a very human quality to them. This is something that we find in the St. Petri church by Sigurd Leverentz in Sweden, where somehow all the effort of the architect has been concentrated in the brickwork, though you see here very rough and very kind of dirty. But anyway, the bricklaying and the joints of the bricks are absolutely precious, and they're all very well calculated, and it's all about the relationship between the brick and its joint. So then somehow all the other elements, like here the water tap, is reduced to its absolute minimum and absolute non-designed quality. So I think that this somehow also in Leverentz's work brings the eye or the attention to the places where Sigurd Leverentz has really put his effort and his love to architecture. Here there's no other example of the flooring of the same church, which is using a very, very simple element, these floor tiles, and the whole art of it is how we lay this very simple piece, enjoying the characteristics of the idea of a piece and a joint. This kind of somehow relaxed attitude towards making a place is very latent in Aldo van Eyck's work in general, but especially in these playground designs in the post-war Amsterdam, where the very simple, very geometrical, very reduced to its minimum formalization, he actually counts so much on the use and of the user of these spaces. So he kind of gives a minimum infrastructure with a very simple construction, and the rest comes from the play of the children. This kind of imperfection or simpliness of the things, and this kind of relying on the user or of the person who is experiencing is also very easy to see in drawings or in architectural representations. We are especially keen to these black and white hand drawings of Tesenov, which somehow, with just a simple line and certain very domestic scenes and objects, lets us users or observers to imagine the rest. We can imagine these rooms in colors, or we can easily imagine the life just because of the simpleness of the drawing, and then of course these little hints like the doll on the table, the scissors, somebody is repairing or making something here, or in this picture of a question we can imagine somehow even the smells of the dinner to be made, or here the vegetation fusing with the architecture. But somehow this very simple and somehow imperfect lines gives us a feeling of time passing and the user being present. There are some other drawings, of course. This Finnish writer and artist Tove Jansson, whose whole imaginary was in words and in black and white, and the rest was delegated to the reader, to the observer. But we can even smell the forest here, though it's just black ink on white paper.
This is something that this way of drawing, this imperfection, and this idea of leaving the one who is seeing the drawings, in this case our drawings, to finish the project or to imagine it in their own way. It's something that we use in all our work. When we depict a project, when we do a representation of our projects, we always do it through these drawings in black and white and just in ink, that they don't work like renderings where you have the every decision is taken, but which they express doubt. I mean, our drawings, as we doubt when we are designing, our drawings also explain that. Sometimes we are thinking of a project, but we don't know exactly what color or what material or what surface or how we will finish something. So what we do is that this openness of the design is shown in the projects and especially in the drawings, so that it's you who sees these drawings, who will finish them in your mind, in your imagination, who will think if this floor is made of wood, if the lake down there has blue or green water, or if the pavement of this square it's actually stone or it's sand or it's grass or whatever. So it's you who will finish the image that we have started.
So there is somehow the feeling of relying in the good imagination and the goodwill of the people. The imagination normally completes the unfinished things in the better possible way, because there is the promise, like Stevenson points. Here This project is kind of a homage to Enzo Mari. It's about our own work in a very small cave type of a space. And what we decided is not so much to show our work, which can be seen in our web page, or which would ideally be seen on the spot inside the architectures. But here what we wanted to talk is about the concepts and the ideas around our architecture. So we built this very simple and very simple to understand piece to hold some models, and the rest is just on the walls in form of imaginary and some pictures and some aspects that are very important for us in our work.
And this is an installation we did a couple of years ago in the Barcelona pavilion by Mies van der Rohe and Lili Reich, where we were talking of many aspects, but now in relation to imperfection, which is what it's this talk about, by covering all the pavilion with this vinyl sheet, we were somehow giving a false idea of perfection, of this image perfection that the culture of image nowadays is so strong about. But at the same time, and what we wanted to somehow strengthen is that actually the materiality of the pavilion is the one that allows life and things to happen. That when you have an extremely, let's say, perfect space, what happens is that it rejects life, because life is not perfect. We are imperfect, life is imperfect, and things happen. There is dust, there is use, there is roughness. So at the end of the installation, what we did was to take pictures of all those traces of use, of dirt, of desire, we would like to think, of those places where people had lifted either with their feet because of the use, or either with their hands because they wanted to see what was under the vinyl sheet. We recorded all these images to have a collection of all those traces of life that the pavilion had been recording. And then at the end, what we did is that we collected all the vinyl sheets that were used in the installation, all of them. We collected all of them, we piled them into one single block, which is actually a very rough, heavy, ugly even pile of vinyl and glue, which is actually, it's a volume, it's a very compact volume, which is actually containing all and absolutely all the surfaces of the Barcelona pavilion. Okay, and just to finish, what would be the better way than to do it in this case with cinema and with the end part or end scene of the movie Some Like It Hot by our beloved Billy Wilder, where it's somehow probably the best example of a perfect, imperfect ending of a movie.
I called my mom. She was so happy she cried. She wants you to have her wedding gown. It's white lace. Yeah, that's good. I can't get married in your mother's dress. She and I, we are not built the same way. We can have it altered. Yeah, no, you don't. I'm good to level with you. We can't get married at all. Why not? Well, in the first place, I'm not a natural blonde. Doesn't matter. I smoke. I smoke all the time. I don't care. But I have a terrible past. For 3 years now, I've been living with a saxophone player. I forgive you.